surprised by yourself at what you're capable of doing after so many years, after, all of that?
I mean, yes and no. I guess yes, at this stage that I'm still able to, battle these young guys that have,
There are moments in sports that make you stop and question what is actually possible. Novak Djokovic has spent nearly 2 decades creating those moments, but what happened at Wimbledon once again reminded the tennis world that he refuses to follow the rules of age. At 39 years old, when most professional players have already retired or accepted that their best years are behind them, Djokovic walked onto one of the biggest stages in tennis and survived a battle that lasted more than 5 hours. His opponent was 14 years younger, full of energy, and determined to finally defeat one of the greatest champions the sport has ever seen. Everything pointed toward a changing of the guard. Instead, the world witnessed another unforgettable chapter in Djokovic's incredible career. It is becoming almost dangerous to underestimate him because every time people believe his time is over, he somehow finds another level. The most remarkable part is that many fans no longer react with complete amazement. Seeing Djokovic reach another Grand Slam semifinal has become so common that people almost expect it, forgetting just how extraordinary this achievement truly is. If another player close to 40 years old produced this performance, headlines around the world would call it one of the greatest sporting stories of the decade. With Djokovic, however, greatness has become so routine that many fail to appreciate the true scale of what he continues to accomplish. From the opening games, it was clear this would never be a comfortable afternoon for either player. Felix Auger-Aliassime entered the match with confidence, carrying the belief that this could finally be the tournament where he fulfilled his enormous potential. Throughout Wimbledon, he had served brilliantly, protected his service games with authority, and looked physically fresh. Against almost anyone else, that level of tennis might have been enough. But facing Novak Djokovic at a Grand Slam is a completely different challenge. It is not only about hitting powerful serves or spectacular winners, it is about surviving the constant mental pressure that Djokovic applies from the very first point until the last. Every rally feels like a test of patience, concentration, and belief. Even when he appears vulnerable, he somehow convinces opponents that they must play perfect tennis just to stay level. The early stages of the match were filled with tension rather than beautiful shot-making. Neither player looked completely comfortable. Djokovic occasionally appeared restricted in his movement, while Felix struggled to convert promising opportunities into decisive advantages. The match remained balanced because both players understood how much every point mattered. Then, as conditions changed and the stadium atmosphere became even more intense, the quality of tennis rose dramatically. Suddenly, both players began striking the ball with greater confidence, producing rallies worthy of a Wimbledon quarterfinal. Djokovic found his rhythm, controlled points with incredible precision, and for a period looked ready to take complete control of the contest. His returns became sharper, his movement improved, and his experience started to show. Many watching believed the momentum had shifted permanently toward the Serbian champion. Yet great matches are remembered because momentum never stays with one player for long. Felix refused to disappear. Instead of allowing Djokovic to dictate everything, he responded with fearless aggression, attacking second serves, stepping inside the baseline, and forcing the veteran into longer physical exchanges. The contest evolved into a battle of endurance as much as skill. Every service game carried enormous pressure, every breakpoint felt like a potential turning point, and every rally demanded maximum physical effort. The tension inside the stadium became almost impossible to describe. Fans knew they were witnessing something special, not simply because of the quality of tennis, but because of what was at stake. One player was trying to announce himself as a true Grand Slam champion, while the other was fighting to prove that age still could not stop him. As the match entered its final stages, physical exhaustion became visible on both sides of the net. Long rallies forced each player to dig deeper than ever before. This is normally where younger athletes are expected to dominate. Fresh legs should overcome experience after 5 exhausting hours. Yet Djokovic has built his entire career by destroying expectations. Instead of fading physically, he became calmer mentally. His decision-making improved when the pressure reached its highest point. While others panic during decisive moments, Djokovic almost seems to become stronger. His serve landed with greater accuracy, his returns forced immediate pressure, and his defensive skills transformed impossible situations into winning opportunities. The final set tiebreak perfectly demonstrated why he remains one of the greatest competitors in sporting history. Every important point seemed to belong to him. He absorbed Felix's power, refused to rush, and waited patiently for the right opportunity before striking with precision. When the final point ended, Djokovic once again stood victorious after another marathon that seemed impossible to survive. The statistics make the achievement even more astonishing. Across his career, Djokovic has repeatedly found himself in matches lasting more than 5 hours, and time after time he has emerged as the winner. That is not luck. It is the product of extraordinary preparation, unmatched discipline, and a competitive mentality that refuses to surrender under any circumstances. Winning a 5-hour Grand Slam battle at nearly 40 years of age is something that should barely be possible in modern tennis, where every season becomes faster, more physical, and more demanding. Yet Djokovic continues rewriting expectations with every tournament. His latest victory was not simply another quarterfinal win. It was another reminder that champions are measured not only by trophies, but by their ability to keep achieving what everyone else believes cannot be done. As Wimbledon moved into its final stages, one question became impossible to ignore. If Novak Djokovic could survive a battle like this against one of the strongest players in the draw, could anyone really count him out of lifting another Grand Slam trophy? Escaping one of the toughest matches of the tournament was only the beginning of Djokovic's challenge. Waiting for him in the semi-final was the world number 1, Jannik, a player who has transformed himself into the biggest force in men's tennis over the past 2 seasons. Unlike many opponents who enter the court hoping to survive against Djokovic, Sinner walks in believing he can win. His powerful baseline game, effortless movement, and remarkable consistency have made him one of the hardest players to break down. Every rally against him demands absolute precision because he gives away very few free points. On paper, Sinner deserved to be considered the favorite. He was younger, physically fresher, and had spent less time on court throughout the tournament. Those advantages matter at Wimbledon, especially after Djokovic had just endured more than 5 exhausting hours in the quarterfinal. Recovery would become just as important as tactics. The Serbian legend would need every hour of rest, every recovery session, and every bit of experience to prepare his body for another enormous test. Yet if there is one player who has repeatedly shown the ability to recover faster than expected, it is Novak Djokovic. Throughout his career, critics have questioned whether his body could handle another deep Grand Slam run, only to watch him answer those doubts with another unforgettable performance. That is why writing him off before a major match has become one of the biggest mistakes in tennis. The psychological side of this matchup was just as fascinating as the physical battle. Djokovic has always been one of the greatest problem solvers the sport has ever seen. He studies opponents carefully, adjusts his tactics during matches, and finds weaknesses that others cannot see. Against Sinner, however, there is very little room for error. The Italian's explosive ground strokes force opponents to defend from the very first shot, and his ability to redirect pace makes him incredibly dangerous on grass. If Djokovic hoped to reach another Wimbledon final, he would have to play aggressively without losing control, shorten points whenever possible, and trust his legendary return game to create opportunities. Every service game would carry enormous pressure because Sinner rarely allows opponents a second chance once he gains momentum. Still, history has shown that when the stakes are highest, Djokovic often produces his best tennis. Grand Slam semifinals and finals have long been his stage, and countless champions have discovered that defeating him over 5 sets is far more difficult than statistics alone can explain. Experience cannot be measured by rankings, but it often becomes decisive when every point carries the weight of history. Beyond reaching another final, something even greater remained within Djokovic's reach. A victory at Wimbledon would move him closer to a historic 25th Grand Slam singles title, a number that no player has ever achieved. Records have defined much of Djokovic's career, but this one would stand above almost everything else. For years, he has chased milestones that many experts once believed were untouchable, breaking records for weeks at world number one, Masters titles, Grand Slam victories, and countless other achievements. Yet despite everything he has already accomplished, his hunger has never disappeared. That relentless desire is perhaps his greatest weapon. While many champions eventually become satisfied with their legacy, Djokovic continues behaving as though he still has something to prove. After nearly 2 decades at the top of the sport, he still trains with incredible intensity, prepares with unmatched professionalism, and competes with the determination of someone chasing a first major title rather than a 25th. It is that mindset which separates legendary athletes from merely great ones. Whatever happened next at Wimbledon, one truth had already become impossible to deny. Novak Djokovic continues challenging the limits of what athletes are expected to achieve late in their careers. Every tournament creates another opportunity for younger stars to replace him, yet he keeps refusing to step aside quietly. His victories are no longer just about trophies. They are lessons in resilience, discipline, and belief. They remind fans that greatness is built through consistency over many years, rather than moments of brilliance alone. Whether he ultimately lifted the Wimbledon trophy or not, surviving another marathon match and reaching the final stages of a Grand Slam at 39 years old was already an extraordinary accomplishment. One day, when tennis fans look back at this era, they may realize they were witnessing something far rarer than they understood in the moment. Players with talent appear every generation, but competitors capable of rewriting history year after year are almost impossible to find. Novak Djokovic has spent his entire career proving that limits exist only until someone refuses to accept them. As the next match approached, millions of fans around the world waited with the same question in mind. Could the greatest fighter in modern tennis produce one more miracle, defeat the world number one once again, and move within touching distance of another historic Wimbledon title? Only the court could provide the answer, but after everything Djokovic has achieved throughout his career, nobody could honestly say it was impossible anymore.